How many times have you found yourself explaining your choices, whether it be relating to your relationships, your career, your finances, how you live your day-to-day life, even your boundaries and your values, and having to really almost validate yourself to that person and over explain yourself and your decisions and lifestyle to someone who quite literally just does not get it. They don't understand you, they don't understand your life, and they make that really fucking clear. It's exhausting, isn't it? It is exhausting trying to make people understand a path that they weren't meant to walk. This is about you. You may be complete polar opposites, and because they see life in a completely different way, you're almost seen as being crazy or living some sort of daydream fairy tale land. I feel that this is something that I have gone through time and time and time again, whether it be in my mind that I feel that I have to explain myself, or those people just really pushing their views and opinions upon me and making it very clear that they feel that I'm in the wrong or making a mistake or doing things out of the ordinary, and that's a problem. This is the You Deserve Better podcast. My name, if you don't already know me, is Rebecca Harrison, and I am the creator of You Deserve Better. It all started in a podcast studio last year, and it has now become an entire movement, working with women one-to-one on their healing through breakup and relationship breakdowns and divorce, working with groups of women who just want better for themselves, for their lives, and having fun with groups of women who just want to get together and build a community and make friends, make new friends with like-minded women, because there's so much beauty in that. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm hoping that this episode will really give you some insight into why the hell we feel that we need to explain ourselves to people, why we feel we need their validation, their permission, and actually how freeing life becomes when you no longer give a fuck. I'm going to cover today why we do over explain ourselves, but also that emotional and energetic cost of doing so. Then we're also going to look in how we can stand firm in our truths without that need for approval, and how altogether it ties into our growth, our healing, and self-love. So strap on in, maybe get yourself nice and cozy with your favorite coffee, get all curled up in bed, or maybe you're running on the treadmill, out on a walk, on your way to work, whatever you are doing. Listen on up, because this is powerful. This is life-changing when you no longer seek out the permission, the validation, the acceptance of other people. You quite literally set yourself free, and that is what I want for all of us, anyone and everyone here. We deserve that freedom, and often the lack of freedom and this need for approval comes from ourselves. So we have the power to change that, and I'm going to give you the power today, and you're going to run with it, because you deserve that. You deserve to be free. You deserve to love your fucking life however you wish to do so. So are you ready? I will just say before we go on, I am still struggling with a croaky voice. This has been going on now since well before my birthday. I think we're now on week 7 of the croak. And it just comes and goes. I can feel it now in the back of my throat. I constantly feel like I'm having to clear my throat, have water, and it just comes out of nowhere. So I do apologize if I sound dreadful. I feel totally fine, by the way, but it's just this long-standing croak, which is not ideal when you have to speak as part of your job quite a lot. But I've told you now, you know what to expect. So if my voice starts going, bear with me. Right, where do we start? So, the need to be understood, yeah? Why do we have this need to be understood? And basically, it all comes back to, I know I've spoken about this in the past, and it comes from way back in history, in the caveman days. We needed to be part of a tribe. We needed to be accepted. It was a life or death situation. If you was not accepted If you was rejected from the pack, from the tribe, you would die. You'd get eaten by werewolves or attacked by other tribes, or you'd literally just starve to death because you didn't have the means, the resources, the pack to support you. So it was life or death. Now, as we've grown and evolved, we no longer need people the same. Of course, we want people. We want to still feel connected. We want to feel part of a community. It is still very much ingrained within us on an emotional level. And that's why a lot of these thoughts, feelings, worries, concerns do still come up when we don't feel a part of something. So that's like way back in ancient time, and we've grown and evolved, but a lot of those feelings are still there. But also in terms of your own life, your current life path that you're on, and all that you've experienced, being misunderstood can actually trigger wounds from your childhood, from being a baby, from needing your parents to care for you, to look after you. It can trigger those wounds of where we felt like we weren't enough or we weren't supported emotionally, physically, whatever. And again, this doesn't need to mean full-blown child abuse. This could be anything. This could be you trying to get your mum's attention over the painting that you created at nursery and she was ignoring you. It could be on the playground and the group of friends no longer wanting to play with you. I'm sure we've all been there at some point, and that is childhood trauma. Whether you like it or not, we all have childhood trauma, and that trauma is literally replaying in our lives throughout our adulthood every single day. So sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but being misunderstood, it triggers those wounds from our childhood, the rejection of not feeling seen, heard, understood, of not feeling safe and supported, okay? And this sort of pattern can show up after any sort of big decision or lifestyle choice or experience as an adult. For example, after a breakup, or a big decision, whether it be a career move, moving to the other side of the world, a relationship breakdown, people turning veggie or vegan, not everyone's going to understand these choices. I think I've mentioned on a podcast episode before about a time where I was going through this period where I no longer wanted to drink. I still drink occasionally, but it's just not the same. And if I don't want to have a drink, I'll still have a great time, but I don't want to drink. And I had this one friend, and she made such a scene about it, that I was boring and I was ruining the night and all this, that and the other. I'm not going to go into that, but it was such a big deal. And it's like, really? Are you actually kidding me? And that's just someone just not understanding your values. Not only not understanding them, but not respecting them. Because that's another thing. You can not understand someone, but you can still respect their choices and who they are as a person. There are so many people in my life that I don't necessarily understand their life choices, their decisions, their way of life, but I respect them because that's their life. That is their journey. Their values and their beliefs and their destiny is not mine. Their soul path is not mine. Oh my gosh, I feel like I keep going off on a tangent here, but I'm feeling very passionate about this. When I first started this episode, by the way, I always have prompts. I have prompts in front of me right here and things that I want to discuss and elaborate on. But so far today, I've kind of gone off on one any which way. So I was planning this episode to be about 30 minutes, but if it ends up being an hour and 30, I apologize in advance. But I actually feel like I'm sharing so much value here that you really need to listen to. If this is something that is very apparent in your life and something that you do struggle with and you do experience, then I really hope that this is helping. In fact, I know that this is helping. So yes, going back to big decisions and people not understanding you. So when you finally choose yourself, whether that be leaving a toxic career or job that is making you fucking miserable, and yes, it's giving you a lot of money and paying the bills, but you're depressed, so you decide to leave and, I don't know, pack up your bags and travel the world, or even quite simply getting a lower paid job that's less hours and less stress, but you know that you'll be happy in, but it may be a little bit more stressful on the finances, and not everyone's going to understand that, but you're choosing yourself. When a relationship breaks down and you go all in onto your healing, and maybe you don't want to go out with your friends anymore and drink and spread misery. Maybe you're working on your journaling and your shadow work and meditating and really learning about who you are and what you want in life. Maybe you've started going to the gym, whereas before everyone knew you as being the yes girl to the takeaways and the Mackies and going on binge nights and lazing in the slobs all day. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you've chosen to now go to the gym and live a healthy lifestyle. Not everyone's going to want to see that. Not everyone's going to agree with that. Okay? But you're choosing yourself. And suddenly, when people aren't agreeing with you and questioning you, you feel like you owe everyone an explanation for it. You feel like you owe everyone an explanation of why you had to leave that job, why that relationship ended, why you're going solo traveling, why you've started a business, why you're changing your health and lifestyle. And the thing is, understanding, it ties back into the last episode actually about closure, and it's a form of control. As human beings, we need to feel that we are in control. And I don't mean it as in like controlling, it's just being in control of our lives, of our faculties, of our safety, it's that kind of thing. So if we feel that if people understand us, they'll approve. And then if they approve, we'll feel safe. Ties back to being part of the pack, being part of the tribe, being accepted in the pack. It's that safety. It's that innate need for safety, security, approval. Okay? But this is the thing, and this is where we challenge that belief, because your peace cannot depend on someone else's understanding. So, for example, someone who has chosen to go vegan, how are they going to be peaceful if they need everyone else to understand their choices? They're going to be fighting it all the time. They're not going to be at peace, when actually deep in their soul, they know that this is right for them. But if they're explaining themselves every day, how are they ever going to feel peaceful? Okay, that's just one example, but you get the point. All the other scenarios as well, I'm going to share with you a couple of times that I found myself over-explaining, and that's because I live a life that is very outside of the norm. I'm a 35-year-old woman that is living with my mum. I'm currently selling the house that I lived with my ex-partner. I have now quit 2 jobs to pursue self-employment, earning very little income, and lived abroad for some time. I go and sit in women's circles, talk about my feelings. I meditate, do breath work. I live in the gym, and maybe to other people that may be listening thinking, oh my God, actually, it's a funny story this. I went to a networking event yesterday. Was it yesterday? Other day. I'm losing track of my days, honestly. It's been a heavy week. Good week, busy, but I just feel a bit all over the place. But I was saying to her, and I've said this a few times recently, that sometimes I just look back and I think, oh my God, life was so much easier when I was asleep. When you talk about consciousness, life was so much easier when I was asleep to this growth and healing and personal development. Life was easier when I just went to work, came home, watched Netflix, went to the gym, had a few drinks on the weekend, complained about life, and that's pretty much it. It's actually so hard going into this growth and development, not only just because of yourself and you're challenging a lot of your own beliefs and learning about who you are and constantly striving for more, working on yourself and progress, but also it's the judgment or the perceptions or the opinions of other people that can easily bring you back into that box again, because it's so much easier to just go out on the weekends, get fucked up, be hungover the next day, slobbing on your sofa, and that's life, then go back to work on Monday. But I, myself, and you, if you're listening, because I know that I attract all the sorts of people that are literally the exact same as me, you didn't choose that path. You chose to grow, to heal, to be awake. You didn't choose the easy path. You chose the hard path, but within that hard path, there's more fulfillment, there's more joy, there's more happiness. Yes, it's tough, but when you're truly awake to you in your life, like, that's so powerful. But yeah, again, going off on a tangent, but yeah, sometimes I just sort of think, God, life was so much easier before. Going back to a time in the past where it was when I still worked as a nurse, and I was working for the immunisation team, and I was working with a student nurse that day, and we used to go out obviously in the cars, going visiting these schools and stuff. And bearing in mind, this will have been within the first year of my husband having left me, okay, maybe year 18 months max. And she was in the car, and we'll just chat, general chit chat, and she said, oh, do you have children? And I said, no. She's like, oh, are you with anyone? I'm like, no. And honestly, I feel sorry for this student nurse now, but I was in an interesting place back then. But I ended up going off on one completely. And I was like, well, I used to be married, and, we were trying for a baby, but then he left, and that was that. So then this is me now. I don't really know. And there was just this pause, this quiet moment, and it was almost like, I don't know what I wanted out of that conversation, but I did feel like I had to explain myself because, I think prior she'd been talking to someone else in the team, and they were on about, families and relationships and things like that. And then, of course, she gets into my car, and so it's just progressing that conversation. Oh, do you have children? I'm like, no. Oh, have you got a partner? No. And this is why, and it's like I had to explain myself. And I've mentioned this on an episode before, where I very regularly feel like I have to explain myself with regards to my living situation. I mentioned before, didn't I, that I'm 35, I live at my mum's, selling my home. I often make a really good point of when I say to people, oh, I'm living at my mum's temporarily, bearing in mind it's now been 2.5 years. 2.5 years is temporary. Bless my mum, she's still putting up with me, but I feel like I have to explain, oh, it's just temporary. I do own a home, but I rented it out when I moved abroad, and now I'm selling it. So God knows what my explanation will be once I've sold it, because then it's just, I live at my mum's and I don't have a home. Although then maybe I'll be saying to people, well, actually, I've just sold my home. I still don't know what I'm doing. I obviously want to get my own place. But who knows? The sale will hopefully be going through next month. And then I'm taking it from there. I've got a few ideas actually going around in my mind. I want to invest a lot of the money because I will have a huge deposit to put down on a house if I want that again. But who knows, but it's interesting, isn't it? I feel like I've always felt that I have to explain that, and I'll be honest, I'm recording this episode now saying about how free you feel when you no longer feel that you have to explain yourself. By the way, I still do experience these phases of having to explain myself. I'm definitely a lot better at it. I would say, I'm not even going to say 90%, I'm going to say 85% much more free. The need to explain, like, I don't feel that the same, but it is still there. And that example I just given to you then, that is definitely something that's still there for me, Just other examples of over explaining myself, again, just thinking about shitty behaviour that I've had from men in the past and things that I tolerated, and then feeling like I'm having to dampen down what I want, what I need, and over explain a situation or a boundary, to come across as this nice girl and to be easygoing and carefree, when in reality, all of that over explaining and this need for approval and validation and wanting to be accepted by other people, I was disrespecting myself. And that's what you're doing. You're just disrespecting yourself. You do not have to explain yourself to other people. Can you imagine, think about it now on our deathbeds? And I like to bring this up a lot because realistically, on my deathbed, am I going to care what Joe from down the road thought about me when I was 35 and lived at my mum's? Am I even going to care about what my dad thought about me while I was struggling, making money to pursue a business, a dream of mine, because I know that by then I'll have made it up tenfold and he'll be so freaking proud of me. So I won't actually be looking back to that. But regardless of that, whatever happens, I am following my life's purpose. I am respecting my soul's needs. I am following through with what I want. We are not here to make other people comfortable or happy from how we choose to live. And we can still be an incredibly kind and generous and giving and loyal person, but still live out our values and needs. And if that makes people uncomfortable, that is on them. That's on them. How would you rather feel on your deathbed? Would you rather feel, oh, do you know what? At least everyone accepted me for who I am, but actually I lived pretty fucking miserably. Or would you rather be, oh my God, I lived out my absolute dream life. I got exactly what I wanted. I've created the most incredible life. And yeah, I lost a few people because of it. But I've been authentically me. The most damaging thing that we can do as human beings is live against our soul, our spirit. You know, when people come to me and they say, like, I feel like I've lost myself. As you know, I work with women who have gone through a breakup, a divorce, or a big life transition where there's been an ending. And often the thing that women struggle with the most, it's not the relationship ending, it's that loss of identity. It's that not knowing who you are. People will come to me and say, I just feel like I've lost my spark. I don't recognize myself anymore. They are the themes that people come to me for. Or even if people say, like, I don't feel like I'm going to meet anyone else or things like that. A lot of what they're saying, it all still ties back to that belief, that worth, that love for oneself, and that knowing exactly who you are and living out of that. When you align with that, life just becomes so much more beautiful. You effortlessly attract the right relationships, the right people, the right opportunities, and an incredible life. So it all ties in. We've kind of already discussed this side of things a little bit more, but just to kind of go into exactly what is that cost of over-explaining, because it drains your energy, it drains your self-trust. As women especially, but as human beings, we are highly intuitive, but especially as women, we're highly intuitive. And actually what drains you the most is living against your faith and your trust. Okay, so that is the emotional cost. You're left feeling exhausted. You're left actually feeling invalidated, because deep down you're not actually validating yourself when you're having to over explain and just not actually sitting with that and knowing who the fuck you are. And it keeps you small. It keeps you small, doesn't it? Because you were constantly just, oh, well, it's just this and that. And, you know, just for someone to be like, oh, cool, okay, no worries. You start second guessing yourself, as we've just said. Maybe I am overreacting about that thing that they said. Or maybe I should be dating again when actually I'm focused on my healing. Maybe they're right. Or maybe I did sound harsh when I said that. You know, you start second guessing yourself, which brings it back to you're invalidating yourself. You're keeping yourself small. You're lacking belief and trust in yourself. It's exhausting. Every explanation that you try to give someone, simply just explaining yourself, is an energy leak. You are giving your power away to people who were never even meant to understand it, who were never meant to appreciate you, who were never meant to hold that energy that you've given them just so easily and freely. That energy is not meant for them, it's meant for you. And that's why energetic boundaries are so, so, so important. When you really delve into this, knowing that everything is energy, what we have within us, we every day wake up with a certain amount of energy. And a lot of that ties into where we're at vibrationally and frequency wise anyway. But also it relates a lot to, it's a fresh slate on a new day. Okay, so everyone has a fresh slate, but that fresh slate is different for everybody. Okay, depending upon where they are at mentally, physically, spiritually. But imagine this fresh slate, so you've got your charged up battery of where yours is at. every interaction that you have, every scroll on social media, every time that you're explaining yourself, anything, you're putting energy into that. So you're depleting yourself day by day, okay? But at the same time, you get back, don't you? So you get back through positive interactions, through a beautiful meditation, through an uplifting comment, or interaction, or fulfilling work, or just a beautiful experience that you have, whether that be, spending some time in the sauna, going to the gym, playing on the swings, whatever, so it's constant energy exchange, isn't it? Give, take, whether it be that you're giving to another person, you're giving to the universe, you're putting into something, but you're also getting back. So when you think of everything like energy, when you're there explaining yourself, can you imagine that energy is just depleting onto someone who doesn't fucking matter? They don't matter. They don't deserve your energy. Yeah, they're not meant to have that. So I'm going to tie it back into relationships again, just because, of course, that is my overall brand and theme. But think of like after a breakup, yeah? We often feel like we have to justify our healing or our boundaries or our silence, sorry I didn't get back to you the other day. I'm just really working on this and that, and I don't have the capacity, and my energy is so low, and I just really wanted to... Who cares? Sorry I didn't get back to you. Duh. Like, you don't have to say any of that. Or, hey, I've been super busy caring for myself the last few days, but I'm back online. How are things with you? Boundaries is a big one, especially when it comes back to dating again after a breakup. My gosh, you do not have to over explain why you don't want a guy to come round at 10 o'clock at night for Netflix and chill. Yeah? If that's not what you want, no thank you. You don't have to explain that. I mean, a lot of the time in my situation as well, because my husband left me and it was very unexpected and out of the blue, and I did experience a lot of feelings of failure and embarrassment, and I felt like I had to explain to people, well, there was just no, I can't understand what happened, and I thought I showed up for him this way and that way. And yeah, of course it was really healing to speak about some of these things, but I was doing it in a way that I almost wanted people to understand that it wasn't my fault. And whether that be the right thing or not, either way, I just wanted people to understand me. But the actual peace and life satisfaction that I got didn't come until I fully understood myself, and I no longer needed to be understood by anyone else. Does that make sense? Real peace comes when you no longer need to be understood, because you understand and just love yourself and accept yourself for who you are. And it's beautiful. So I just want to reiterate that not everyone, whatever the situation is for you, not everyone is meant to get your journey. Not everyone's meant to understand, because it's not theirs. Theirs is very different to yours. Your life paths are so unique. Our life paths are so unique to us, and sometimes they are very different from someone else's. And they're not meant to understand that because it's not theirs. And that's okay. In fact, that's what's beautiful, that we are on such different paths. Imagine if we all did the exact same thing. How boring would that be? But isn't it amazing when you can speak to other people, like, oh, have you heard about so-and-so? And they're doing this now, and they're going there. And it's so beautiful because it's so unique. It's unique to them, and it's inspiring. So yeah, I just want to reframe a lot of this, this understanding that we need and this validation that we seek, and how to really detach from that need of others' approval, because as I said before, you can still be kind and a light and beautiful energy and not explain yourself. You can say no thank you and leave it at that, or you can say that doesn't really serve me, leave it at that. You can say I don't feel that we quite align and leave it at that. You don't need to explain yourself. You can still be a beautiful, kind, warm-hearted, loving person. You can be misunderstood and still be aligned. People won't get you. People won't understand. They may not agree, but you do. So you can be misunderstood but still be aligned. And often that is the case when you are most aligned. You often are misunderstood by a lot of people. But it's not your job to make sense to people who aren't doing the same inner work as you. Or it's not your job to help people understand your dreams and your goals and your way of life. That's not your job. Your job is to go out there and do it and live it. And that's why often I personally feel, and this is definitely something that's worked for me, is actually just practicing silence instead of some sort of justification. Yeah, so maybe the next time someone questions your choices, try just responding with, I understand that it might not make sense to you, but it feels right for me. And that's something that I've had to do. Again, my family don't always speak positively about the life path that I'm on with regards to my career. My dad would much rather me go back into my nursing and be on a set, steady income, consistency, safe, secure. But I was miserable. I was so miserable. And he doesn't understand why I would take such big risks and do things that he, quite frankly, doesn't get, because it's the modern generation working a lot online, the coaching space. It's a different life, isn't it, to theirs, to our parents. And that's okay. He doesn't understand. But I tried so hard to make him understand and over explain myself and over justify myself, and it only made me more miserable. Me doing that, not him, made me miserable. And now it's just a case of it doesn't make sense to you, but it's right for me. And this can be applied in so many different situations. So again, anyone who's questioning your choices, whatever that may be for you, I understand that it might not make sense to you, but it feels right for me. That's enough. That's all you need. That is all you need to say. And how beautiful is that? Because it's quite calm and confident and still loving and caring, but you're expressing that this feels right for me. And if they still question and want to force something out of you, then again, I think that says more about that person than it does for you. And maybe these are the times that we actually have to step away from these kind of unhealthy and toxic dynamics. Because if someone truly loves and truly cares for you, whether they understand you or not, they respect you and your needs and your wishes. I really hope that helps. And that's why it's important as well to know when to explain something for a connection, like you're actually having a beautiful interaction and they're wanting to lovingly challenge an area of your life for your growth and your expansion. And that's powerful. I've had that in the past, okay? But that's different when you're doing it in a form of connection and for empowering and really growing in an area. But then it's also knowing when to protect your energy. And you'll know there's a very clear difference. It's just obvious. It's so obvious. So it's really knowing when to protect your energy in these situations. So I think it's important to really give you some tangible steps to truly embody that self-trust and confidence with a decision or life choice, and not feeling like you have to explain yourself. So how can we stop explaining ourselves? So I think firstly, it's important to ground in your why. Yeah. When you know exactly why you made a decision, what's in it for you, what is for the greater good, why you are doing something in particular, you don't need to justify it to anyone else, because you're so firm in that belief and that trust and that knowing that it's right for you. So what is your why? And if it feels right, journal on that. Why did I choose this path? What feels most aligned for me right now? Who am I trying to prove this to, and why? In fact, definitely do that. If it is something that is especially a huge life decision or a life choice or something, and it is an area that you feel that you're really having to explain to people, I would highly encourage you to journal on that. So I'm going to repeat those again. Please write these down or pop them in your notes or come back to this point in the episode. When you're so grounded in your why, nothing else will matter, I promise you. Why did I choose this path? Why did I choose this path? So write on that. Let it flow. What feels most aligned for me right now? Again, let it flow. Let your subconscious talk to you. Really understand what's going on. And this is a really important one. Who am I trying to prove this to? But most importantly, and why? So really go all in on that. I think it'll tell you a lot about what you need to know. And it'll help you really pinpoint some areas that you are struggling with like a need for validation or acceptance. Okay? But get firm on that, because it really, really helps. You need to have that why to feel so firm and knowing in your own beliefs. Another important one is to actually accept being misunderstood. So for me now, I know that I live a life very unique to other people. It's not conforming to societal norms and expectations. It's very different, okay? I am misunderstood by a lot of people. A lot of people don't get me. They don't get why I would strive to do the things that I am, why I would choose a path that's really difficult or not normal, things like that. People don't understand me. They don't get me. And I've had to accept that. And it's took some time. And even now, like I'm saying this, I still struggle with it from time to time. It is hard if I meet new people, for example, and I was explaining about what I do, or my situation and things. It is something that I still have it, come up from time to time, like a little trigger, a little feeling in my body within that's telling me this is quite uncomfortable for you, okay? But overall, I've had to accept being misunderstood. And I think what's important about this is actually understanding that being misunderstood is a sign that you're evolving beyond the level that some people are willing to see you at. I want to say that again because that is powerful. Being misunderstood is a sign that you are evolving beyond the level that some people are willing to see you at. People only know you for who you were when they met you. The person that you are, the things that you do, the success that you have, the life that you live. They see you as that person. So when you grow, evolve and change and strive for more and do better and be better and become successful, they don't want to see that. They don't want to understand that. You're evolving past that level. And that is difficult for some people to understand. So I think it's important to reassure you that actually not being understood doesn't mean that you're wrong. In fact, I'd say it means 9 times out of 10 you're doing something very right. So in a way, we should actually celebrate being misunderstood if that's the case, shouldn't we? Let's celebrate the fuck out of that. We're evolving. And we are in the right. And that's beautiful. Which brings me nicely on to my next point, and that is that self-trust. We really have to strengthen our self-trust. Yeah? When we make choices from our intuition, when we know in our gut, when we are living through our soul's path, desire, and the choices that we make, we really, really know deep in our soul that it's right for us, you'll just naturally outgrow that need for approval because you just know. It may not make sense, it may not feel right, it may seem scary, but you just know deep down within. Your intuition is telling you you're not going to need that approval because you're approving of your goddamn self. Ooh, again, that is so beautiful, isn't it? You are approving of yourself because you're following your intuition. You're following the life path that you're here for. Do you believe that you are here for a reason right now, this time? You were born in this era, this generation, at this time for a reason, for a purpose. You know that, right? So if you are actually following out that life's purpose, trusting in your intuition and letting it guide you, why would you need anyone else's approval? And there's some ways that you can help build that self-trust within. And it's important to do that and have like those daily check-ins where you really look back and reflect like, okay, what am I doing? Where am I heading? Where am I going? How does it make me feel? Is this sitting right with me? Often you know, don't you, when you're in the wrong job, in the wrong relationship, living in the wrong home, reaching for goals that aren't truly yours, don't you? It sits heavy with you. It's draining. Something just feels off. So have those daily check-ins. How is this feeling with me? Of course, boundaries, having those boundaries, communicating your needs, saying no, setting those standards for yourself and meeting them. So it's boundaries for yourself as well. Boundaries are for yourself. They're not for other people. They're actually for yourself. It's protecting yourself and living within your values. So important. And also honoring your emotions. That's another important one way of which we can build our self-trust, because sometimes I feel sad, sometimes I feel angry, and I may not fully understand why, but I'm honoring that. Honoring your emotions is so important, and just sitting with them, letting them be, not forcing them away, not brushing them under the carpet, just being with them. You are strengthening your self-trust because you're being yourself and you're honoring yourself for exactly who you are. Talking about boundaries as well, you don't have to defend your boundaries. So as we mentioned before, you don't have to defend your boundaries to keep them. You just have to actually maintain them, to uphold them, to set them and keep them. I'd encourage you to say less around your boundaries when you're setting them with other people, for example. I'm not available for that conversation. I don't stay up that late. I'm focusing on my health right now. I don't get involved with gossip, things like that. Just keeping it short and sweet. Say less. No explanation needed. And then finally, really, really important and very, very powerful in terms of your growth and development in this area, but surrounding yourself with people who get it. Surround yourself with people who get it. Not everyone will, but when you are around the people who do as much as possible, it changes everything. When you're around aligned souls, you don't ever have to explain yourself because they feel it. They understand. They see the vision. They appreciate the path that you're on. They just get it. Being around the right people, growth-minded people, it is powerful. It changes everything. And I'll be honest, it's something that I've struggled with the most because I find it hard to meet and connect with and bring these people all together. It is something that I've really had to work on myself. So I understand if maybe you're in a period right now where you're thinking, well, where are they? But when you really focus on that and really put yourself out there and seek out like-minded individuals, it changes everything. They say, don't they, that you become the average of the people that I think I'm messing up that saying completely. I need to figure that out. But basically it's like you become who you surround yourself with. So it really is so important. Like, it is so underrated, the value of the people that you surround yourself with and the impact that they have upon you and your life. You should just think back on this entire episode and everything that we've discussed today and just really reflect on how freeing it could be to no longer chase validation, because it is such a beautiful place to be, to feel so free that you validate yourself. You know the path that you're on, you're leaning into your intuition, and you have that self-belief and that self-trust that you don't need other people's validation because you have it already ingrained within, And I'll reiterate that I don't always have it. It's not always there. I still occasionally have those doubts, but that freeing feeling is there 9 times out of 10, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I want that for you as well. And again, going back to that last point of the people that you surround yourself and the people that truly see you will never need you to explain yourself. The people who truly love and care for you and want what's best for you and see that vision and understand exactly what you are driving yourself towards, they don't need you to explain yourself. They don't need to understand, because they'll still respect you and believe in you and trust you. And yeah, it's fine for people to challenge you and to worry or, because they care. But even if they don't understand, they can still respect your mission. The ones who don't, they never will, no matter how much you try. So you might as well give up now. Because there's just no point. You're just draining your energy. You're leaking your energy and disrupting your peace. And that's what it is. It ties it all back to healing, doesn't it? This is true self-love. And that's why I always say self-love is hard. It's standing so rooted in who you are that you don't need to seek permission to be that woman. Yeah, and that is easier said than done. That is true self-love, being rooted in who you are, believing in who you are, following your intuition, trusting the path that you're on, regardless of other people's opinions and perceptions, and the beliefs that they try to instill upon you as well. I just want to leave you with this key message that you don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth, for your healing, for your peace, your lifestyle choices, your decisions, the person that you are, and the way that you show up every single day. You don't owe anyone an explanation for that. And so I want to share a few affirmations that you can practice to actually really embody into that self-belief and that trust and that no longer needing anyone else's approval and validation. I'm going to share 2 because these just really sit well with me for what we've been discussing, and that is, my decisions don't need validation to be valid. So just put your hand on your heart for me. Just pop your hand on your heart and close your eyes. Not if you're driving, of course, but just say that out loud and really sit with it and feel it. My decisions don't need validation to be valid. My decisions don't need validation to be valid. And this one, I absolutely love this one that I'm going to say now, that I am no longer explaining my worth. I am no longer explaining my worth. Shout it for me. I am no longer explaining my worth. Boom. Really practice those. Sit with those, And again, the journaling prompts that I gave you, they are key. Really, truly knowing your why. When you have that, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I'd love to hear from you today. Please share your biggest takeaway, or you can actually DM me your own story or your own epiphany, light bulb moment, your own realization, okay, that you've had on this path, or whether it be through this episode, anything, please share it with me. As always, I'd love for you to share this episode with a friend if you feel that it would help them. Pop it on your stories, let others know that you've been listening, and be sure to give me a like, a comment, a follow if you are not already following me on Spotify or subscribed on YouTube. I absolutely love seeing how this audience and this community is growing and growing and growing, and it really truly warms my heart to see the difference that it's having on so many people. If you have any recommendations, anything that you'd wish to hear in some future episodes, drop me a DM about that as well, or leave a comment. I love to hear, and I take all of your recommendations, your opinions, your suggestions super seriously. A lot of my episodes have actually come from other people reaching out and requesting that particular topic. So be sure to send that over to me. And final message is just to remember that not everyone will understand your path, but the ones meant to walk beside you won't need you to explain it. Not everyone will understand your path, but the ones that are meant to walk beside you won't need you to explain it. I love you so much. I hope that this episode brought you value, love, reassurance, support, and encouragement. I cannot wait to hear how this landed with you, and I'll see you soon again on the next episode. So much love.